All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Abby Sachs. I work on the GVSU Institutional Advancement team. I'm excited to join my colleagues in the College of Computing and Alumni Relations to facilitate today's webinar. And thank you to those of you who submitted questions in advance. If you have questions during the presentation, I ask that you use the Q&A box function. You can go ahead and submit questions throughout as they pop up into your head as Dean Kessentini is speaking, and we'll get to as many questions as we can following the presentation. We're thrilled to have Dr. Marouane Kessentini, Dean of GVSU's College of Computing, with us today to explore how AI+X is reshaping careers across disciplines, what skills are becoming essential, and how alumni can prepare for and thrive in a rapidly evolving workforce. A bit about our dean. Dr. Kessentini is an internationally recognized leader in software engineering and AI. In those areas, he has over 200 research papers, over 7,000 citations, and along with 14 licensed inventions with companies and 4 patents. So if we were looking for an expert, I think we've found one here with Dean Kessentini. He's the recipient of several distinguished awards and honors, and he has been a dedicated teacher and researcher for many, many years. So he has served as the Dean of the College of Computing here at Grand Valley since July of 2024, and I'm excited to have him take the floor. So Dr. Kessentini, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Abby, and very nice to meet all the Lakers here in this exciting webinar about this very exciting topic. And I can tell you, I typically wake up every day at 5 a.m. and then of course, I reflected today on this presentation. I can tell you by 5:20 a.m. I wish if I have all your cell phone number just to call you and start the presentation right away. This is how I'm excited I am about the presentation for today to share with you probably some opportunities around how AI is changing society in general and how also Grand Valley is providing you a lot of opportunities for upscaling, rescaling to deal with both the benefits and the challenges of AI today. So without further ado, so I'm assuming you can see my screen and my presentation, and I want to start probably first with two statements. AI isn't a future concept. It is actually a present reality. Whether you want to acknowledge this or not, that's the reality that we are facing today with all the benefits and challenges that AI is bringing today and in the future. So the question isn't really whether we should adopt AI or not, but how quickly and intentionally we can do that. And of course, that should come with a number of principles that I will cover in the presentation today. So in this presentation, hopefully it will be 30 minutes presentation, then there are 30 minutes for questions. So I have three, I would say, clusters in my presentation. I will talk first about AI automation and future work and the impact of AI on the future of work, and also about leading in the age of AI and finding about how you can prepare yourself for an AI-driven future and what opportunities exist today at Grand Valley for you to basically be ready, as always, for all the challenges and benefits of AI. So for me, four guiding principles are very important when we talk about AI adoption. I don't want to talk about actions without talking first about principles, especially when it comes to responsible AI. So AI, unlike what probably you may hear in media and all the propaganda around AI and so on that is taking jobs and so on, AI is actually here to amplify the human agency. AI is basically here to try to make you more productive, more efficient, and also helping you focus on innovation. I personally spent my whole research on how we can build bots that can interact with the human to generate code and build software. And I have been working with my research teams, on validating this at a large scale at eBay, at Amazon, at Ford, and other companies. And what we always learned was AI, including machine learning, deep learning, genetic programming, and so on, is there to interact with a human and work with a human. So the amplification of the human agency, it's one of the first principles, even here at Grand Valley, on how we see AI in general. And then the second principle is about increasing collaboration and engagement. And we may need to acknowledge here that when we talk about collaboration in the past, we talk about collaboration between humans most of the time. Even when we talk about teams, in organization, in the university and beyond, we assume that teams are mainly composed by humans. But in today's reality, when we talk about teams, we are talking about engagement and collaboration between software bots and even robots and humans. And that will continue to be the case in the future. So this AI human interaction and engagement is important to keep in mind that collaboration is redefined today and in the future to also include virtual bots and so on. So the third principle is around the importance of digital and information literacy. Many of you probably graduated many years ago, and the importance of lifelong learning, we can see it today more and more. I don't believe in the future university will graduate students. I believe people, they will continue learning during their whole life. Like they can take badges, they can take certificates, but it's very important what AI is bringing today for our society is the speed, and these technologies evolve every day. So another important principle here is first to learn about AI, but keep in mind that may not be sufficient, but it's important as a starting point, and you continue evolving during your whole life by learning new skills that include AI or other important aspects in our society, whether cybersecurity and so on. And then the last point, which is very important, is integrity, which is very important when we talk about AI in general, because we can talk about AI without data. And access to data is critical. Having consent about how to use this data and so on is another critical point, and how we can actually increase awareness about all the challenges related to data collection and data usage. Because at the end of the day, there is always a debate in practice between integrity and purpose, and on the other side, profit. And unfortunately, as you know, most of companies today, they are competing, right? So, and when they compete, there is this conflicting piece between purpose and profit. And that's what we see probably that's the challenging part for society, especially today with AI. Most of startups, most of even 14,500 company, they're taking risk with deploying AI quickly because they have to compete. And most of the time, they also think that let the market decide about whether what we are doing actually will have a better impact on users or not. So based on those principles, I want first to emphasize that the biggest risk that you are taking is doing nothing, because AI is already proven that it's changing industry. It's improving efficiencies. And I hear a lot about this assumptions that AI is taking jobs. But the reality, AI is not really taking jobs. Actually, the people who are learning how to use AI in a responsible way and they did the right upscaling and so on, they are actually the one who are taking other people's jobs. It's not really AI is taking jobs. And you can see so many examples for that. I can give you one example. IBM is one of the largest, I would say, tech companies who try to deploy AI at scale. And they try to think that by deploying AI, they can replace software engineers. But what they ended up happening is like they had to hire more people to test the software that is generated and the code that is generated by bots. So basically, I mean, they didn't gain in terms of the profit side. So, but actually, they changed their processes to deploy AI, but that didn't come actually with gain in cost. So keep that in mind that it's important to think about AI that is continue to evolve, but at the same time, you always have the human judgment, which is very important. And what AI can add is more the machine precision, the ability to make things faster, the ability to automate repeatable tasks, whether people they were spending a lot of time, for example, on cleaning data. All data cleaning today can be done by bots, for example. A lot of tasks that probably you may not even prepare to do as a human, like you find them probably boring, repeatable, and so on. You can have AI drafting, those tasks for you, for your judgment, for your evaluation. So that save a lot of time for you, and you can actually innovate and spend more time on this. And that's what help in the augmentation side and trying to be more productive. At the same side, thinking about the challenges that AI is bringing when it is deployed in practice, the first challenge that society will continue to face is the digital divide, because not everyone have equal access to technologies. These technologies become more and more expansive, especially we see in the future. Quantum computing, for instance, is one of the, I would say, new technologies and evolutions that will continue to actually accelerate AI innovation. But quantum computing is pretty expensive, and deploying AI using quantum computers and so on would be pretty expensive in the future. So the level of and the ability to compete would be more restricted to this type of digital divide situations. Also, inclusive development is very important, and that's include how we can actually look at data in a careful way from ethics, but also bias perspective. There are so many examples in society where AI get deployed and it created bias because of the source of the data that was used. And today there are so many training available around AI ethics and bias, including the one that we are offering here at Grand Valley that I'll be covering later. And the third one is the innovation balance. As we discussed, what we are experiencing today in society is like companies, they always compete. And the speed of deploying AI and trying to innovate to be able to compete sometimes may sacrifice some, you know, regulations that need to be followed and so on. And today, I can tell you honestly, the area of AI governance is the main area of growth in terms of research, in terms of hopefully maturity in the future. Because even when talking with executive at 14,500 companies and so on, they realize that many of them are taking advantage of, I would say, the lack of maturity in terms of AI governance and regulations. So, so basically that co-evolution between having more AI tools and having static, legal and regulations and so on is actually creating a lot of challenges that we can see, for example, in autonomous vehicles. For instance, the data that is collected about drivers and so on, we are still lacking a lot of regulations in many states around how we can actually better regulate all the data that are collected, for example, from drivers. So these are examples among many, but at the same time, we acknowledge that already AI is changing the workplace. We see today more smart environments that include IoT devices, even at home, that can understand your preferences, and the same thing at work, or even deployed in cars and so on, so that they can collect data all the time and making better personalized decision for you and recommendation. The same thing, the use of AR, VR today in so many areas, including health, manufacturing, and so on, can reduce the risk of testing new technologies and at the same time trying to have faster innovation with the least cost. At the same time, AI assistant today use it every year, everywhere by people. Whether I mean in terms of many of you are familiar with ChatGPT and other generative AI tools. But today, when we talk about AI assistants, again, we are talking about a team of agents, a team of bots, and your duties moving forward will be more around how you can also have those skills to deal with a team of bots and what are the orchestration that can happen between all of this team of bots. So the bottom line is like this human AI collaboration is very important. We talked about augmentation, but also we talked about the humans that can spend more time on innovation. And the important piece here is like people typically can bring more empathy. Although I mean the recent AI research try to include empathy and emotional intelligence, but still as a human you can handle this better. You can think about healthcare setting. Of course, you can have generative AI helping doctors in analyzing reports, generating summaries, but the empathy is very important when you are talking to patients and so on. So that's an area of growth, both in AI research, but at the same time, as a human, would be always better in terms of communication and beyond. And also, the last thing is what as we discussed, the human oversight is very important. You have to validate the outcomes coming from these AI tools. You can't take them granted. A lot of reports show that even it happened at big companies and so on where they use AI to summarize data, and then they figure out that a lot of the summaries were not actually accurate, and that's created and had a very big negative impact on companies and beyond. So the positive side of it, when we talk about human AI collaboration, the positive impact, the future of work, the way how we see it, it's you can have more work-life balance because AI can help you to reduce all this redundant tasks. It can enable more remote workers through, for example, AR, VR simulation and beyond. And we have here at Grand Valley a great simulation center, for example, in the College of Nursing. And also, I mean, with the trend now more in industry, especially, for example, in Europe, there are a number of countries who moved to 4-day work week and number of companies there who adopted this model. And it was allowed basically because of the ability of AI to provide this better work-life balance. So there are really a lot of jobs that are emerging today, whether when we talk about AI specialists, I'm not talking here about AI engineers. AI engineers mainly develop and deploy machine learning models, they test them and so on. But when we talk about AI specialists, it's beyond that. They look to the whole cycle of developing AI. They look to the whole organizational culture when deploying AI. They look to the ethics, they look to the bias. They look to much more than just the code and the engineering piece, because when you deploy AI, you are changing the culture in the company. So that management piece, that cultural understanding is very important when actually we talk about AI specialist hiring. Also, there is an increase in terms of hiring ethics consultants and also software testers, as we discussed it. And the jobs that were always at risk, I would say customer service jobs, data cleaning jobs, routine tasks that can be automated by robots and bots and so on. Also, AI is impacting a lot the gig economy because there are very powerful platforms today that can help people match their skills with available projects. So there are so many platforms today. They provide crowdsourcing opportunities where third parties and companies can actually put a list of consulting projects, then automatically you get recommended for those projects. So actually part of the reason why gig economy continue to grow is actually because of the growth in AI in terms of enabling more collaboration between teams that are composed by people who never did these jobs before, but at the same time, today, as we discussed it, even in the gig economy, we are talking about bots that are actually contributing to be part of the teams, and there are a lot of successful stories there of teams that successfully delivered projects that are composed by humans and bots. So that's the first part of my presentation. It's really about AI, AI and automation and its impact on the future of work. So I will talk now here a little bit about AI management, especially in organization and how to lead in the age of AI, like whether you are serving as a manager, or engineer or whatever position you are taking. So thinking about the speed that AI is offering um, can be the perfection. So when it comes to AI, when you're trying to encourage your teams to use AI, it's fine, I mean, to start small and learn and iterate and make sure that you test whatever outcomes are delivered by these tools, and also be careful about the quality of the data because all the machine learning models, they are learning from the data. So checking the quality of the data is very important. And the last aspect, which is critical, is the security piece that are typically non-negotiable because the impact of security and privacy violation can be huge on the reputation of the company and the failure of the project. And great news to announce here that we just got significant funding from the NIST, the National Institute for Standards here at GVSU to establish a trustworthy AI consortium. And we have over 20 local companies here who are engaged on that. And that's something we'll be launching very soon. And if you are interested, Dr. Mansour from College of Computing is leading this Trustworthy AI consortium, which will provide a lot of training and also a lot of research opportunities as well. So when also you are trying to deploy AI, think about the culture because you have your teams typically, they have probably fear or or being uncomfortable from using AI. So you try to encourage their curiosity and you try to encourage them to even use it for small pilots and look at the results and what they learn and make it even as an everyday conversation. It's totally fine. Even if people they don't feel comfortable about this conversation about how they are using AI and why and what they are learning, I mean, having it as an everyday conversation, it will help to change the culture because cultures can move faster than technology, but you have to do it in the right way. And that's why leading in the age of AI is very important because you need to work on changing the culture in your organization. It's not just a technical problem. So our main advice for you is start today, like in your daily job. Start with one process, one workflow, one experiment, try it out. It's fine to learn from that, whether it's successful or not, and try to build the culture in more, I would say, in an incremental way. But at the same time, you need to have that ability to lead with urgency, but also purpose. And we talked at the beginning of the presentation around the importance of the principles that we talked about to have any deployment that you are doing in your organization done in a responsible way. And also, when you lead with people, the most important piece is before trying to grow others, you need to grow yourself. And what I mean by here is like you need to be both the student and the teacher of AI. And it's fine to acknowledge that the technology is changing fast. I may need to get some upscaling, whether a certificate or a badge, or sometimes one-on-one, probably consultation with an expert to learn because this is how you can serve the other people working with you and it's totally okay to be both a student and a teacher of AI and trying to empower your teams as well and encouraging them to continue having the right upscaling in the future because the technologies will continue changing fast with AI. So to be ready for an AI-driven future, there are three principles that are very important here is to develop a growth mindset. Like, as I said from the very beginning, if your attitude is just to say that, okay, I don't care about AI, I don't think AI will stay, it's something again that we are not at the proof of concept phase. We are actually seeing how AI will even make a bigger impact, especially as I said, with the recent growth in quantum computing that will enable even more speed in terms of AI innovation, which is one of the barrier today. And also, you need to think about embracing the technology, embracing AI. So you need to understand how AI can enhance some specific part of your work, but also understand what are the challenges or negative impacts of this, and also making sure that you continue cultivating the human skills, because when you try to develop and deploy bots to work with a human, you would be still lacking that empathy and so on. So it's very important that this is, would be more the focus, that critical thinking piece, that ability to judge the outcome is very important to continue developing. So to summarize, in terms of reskilling and upskilling, our advice for you are probably categorized in three areas. Continuous learning. So this is something that will continue for your whole life. So there is no way that you can keep up with how the technology is evolving. Otherwise, at some point, it will take your job if you don't actually continue to learn about how these technologies are evolving. Digital literacy are very essential even for frontline workers, and it's very important at least to understand the very basic, at least the very basics around responsible AI and how this is could impact in terms of bias, in terms of ethics, in terms of responsible use of AI. This is the very minimum to understand. And then, of course, career changers is becoming today more and more, I would say, a hot topic, because there are more opportunities today to combine your knowledge, whether in business, whether in humanities, or in health, with computing and AI. So basically, you can even change your career path quickly by actually getting the right skills quickly and combine your background and your prior knowledge with computing, with cybersecurity, with AI, and so on. So here at GVSU, we have so many opportunities for you, whether from AI literacy perspective. If your goal is to start from scratch, I want to understand what is AI, how AI works, what is limitation, or I mean, develop better critical thinking skills, or join one of our programs, whether badges, certificates that cover different aspects of AI, or just, I mean, taking some certificates, and I will cover some of these opportunities for you. Like the very first one, and I'm very excited to announce this for the first time. One of the donor actually supported us to create an online community certificate on AI for life and work. And this certificate will be available for everyone. You'll be the very first one to get the link, to register. So it will be for free. It will give you all the foundations around AI for life and work. And then that could be an entry point for you to decide, okay, now I understand how AI works, what are the benefits, the advantages. So probably I can go further and do probably a certificate that can be stackable toward a master's in AI. Or even you can do an online second bachelor degree in AI. And recently in the College of Computing, we created a pathway that if you have already a bachelor degree in other domains, you just add 30 credits and you can get the second bachelor degree in AI. Because as you know, a lot of employers, when they look to the background of applicants, they want to see something that you have a bachelor in AI because they think this is the foundations and so on. Or you can do a master's, and we have opportunities there, whether on a human-centered computing, AI, and so on, where you can actually go more specialized. And those masters are open to anyone from any field. And I'm also so excited about the new programs that I will detail a little bit around computing plus X, where you can pair AI, cybersecurity, data science with any other majors that you want. You can do computing plus health. You can do computing plus business. You can do even computing plus anthropology and so on, because these are the needs in the market today and in the future. The way how AI changed the needed skills is like you have less skills at the foundation level of computing, but more needs around how you can combine AI with business or with health and other area. Or if you are at the manager level or above, we are offering a chief AI officer program that is more to prepare you for executive position in AI. So there is a recent trend now in companies to create this position of chief AI officer, where you can actually help the whole organization on how to architect and deploy and dealing with the cultural change and put a whole strategy around AI for the company. And also we have a lot of opportunities for community college students to easily transfer to join our AI degree and so on. So the first one, and when we are very excited to launch it on February 20th, so you will get the link to register for free to this certificate, which will be available online. And also you can get a GVSU digital certificate if you complete it. It's up to 10 hours, but it will cover really a lot of the skills that you need as an entry point. And that will not require any background that you may need to have around computing or AI. It will give you all the foundation around human-centered and responsible AI engagement. So it will give you an overview around all of these modules around AI literacy, around communicating with AI and generative AI and prompt engineering and what are the best practices there, around trustworthy AI and how you can basically trust the outcome of this AI outputs and validate them. We will have really a very well-known industry executive also giving an overview about AI in work and organizations. And also we'll have other modules around AI ethics and how it is impacting society. And finally, it's about AI and how it is impacting the climate and energy and sustainability. And finally, you can reflect on all of this by working on a small AI project. And again, will be for free because we want to make you better so you can make us better. So we always want to invest on you so later you can basically invest on us as you always do as Lakers. And of course, as I said, we have a lot of master's program around AI, human-centered computing, cybersecurity, data science. They are also offered online, and the same thing at the bachelor degree level. But this is more to go deeper. So we have also certificates, and as you can see, our certificate cover the Intro to AI, generative AI, AI ethics and bias, and trustworthy AI, which is the intersection of cybersecurity and AI. And also, this is actually a great point for anyone where we offer a badge that you can take two courses here, like Intro to AI, Generative AI, and then you can decide, I want to join a master's in AI here at GVSU. So whatever credits you took there, you can actually transfer to the master if you like your experience there. And also, it's offered online. The Chief AI Officer program that I discussed it for you, we have a lot of opportunities there in terms of upscaling. And this is really more for people with experience and they are more either at the executives level or the manager level. So we have all range of opportunities for you from being free to this type of, I would say, executive level programs. And also another thing I'm excited to announce is all our new work around creating degrees around pairing computing with business, with health, with math, with anthropology, criminal justice, because that's, I mean, the reason why GVSU created the new College of Computing is the ability to work with everyone and for everyone. And that's the reality of the future of work. Like every job today require that you know the skills in computing, whether in security or AI, and so on, and being able to pair it as well with the other domain. And this is would be less costly. This would be timely for industry and how actually HR are looking for talent today and in the future. And it has the same value as a double major because you can go in depth in the two area, but still graduate in time within 120 credits. And also you can get it even as a second bachelor degree and so on. So basically it gives you the opportunity to combine two area by pairing one of the area of computing, whether you want to do AI, cybersecurity, IT, software engineering, and you can combine it, for example, with business, whether with finance, accounting, economics, and then basically you can get a degree on, for example, computing and business, and that's actually will make you more competitive in the job market. So thank you very much. So try to make sure that we are stick with the 30 minutes presentation. And now I can welcome any of your questions. We got already so many questions before the this event that we'll try to also cover, and also happy to take any Q&A as well. So it's all yours, AP now.
All right. Thank you so much. Wow. I appreciate you keeping it to 30 minutes, but you could have gone for another 30 and I would have loved listening. So, some questions. We already have a good number of questions from the folks who are here today, so I do want to start with those. We have Derek from the audience asked about the idea that AI is already here, that's already happening. What opportunities are there for people in the community to help partner with the university to test these frameworks in real world applications when you're thinking about businesses and community leaders partnering with Grand Valley on these businesses solutions, and as well as opportunities for businesses or alum to help volunteer with the learning pathways. Basically, how can people get involved?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a great a question, and it's actually aligned with one of the very recent initiatives that we are launching at the College of Computing. We call it the chip yard. So the idea of the chip yard is basically focusing on real world projects. And through the chip yard, we are creating a bank of projects that the community can propose. Like the community can propose any projects. It could be some pilots and so on, where our students can go and try and try to solve those problems and get some mentorship as well in this project. And at the same time, we are considering this experiential learning experience as part of the curriculum as well. So it's kind of emphasizing our DNA in terms of project-based learning, and we want to make sure that we evolve with actually the needs of society. Because in the past, for example, to learn some skills, let's say software engineering skills, you need to take a software engineering course. But today, you can learn the skills by working on a project as explained in this question that the community can propose, or some companies can propose this idea that could be even about open source projects and so on, or some high risk project, and the students can learn from them, but still can get credits for that and be part of their experience based on what they learned, and so on. So that's one opportunity, and we'll be sharing more about it. It will be it's called the Shipyard project, where basically the community can engage with us and propose project for the students, and we will be try to share this results, whether open source and beyond.
I love to hear it. We have a question from Joe, who said that Elon Musk recently said to stop saving for retirement because in 10 years, AI will be doing all jobs and we will live in a world of abundance where no one needs to work. And it sounds like you may disagree with that prediction. Do you anticipate a time when AI will truly do all work?
Not today for sure, or not in the near future. Probably 50 plus years from now. And I would see the main challenge is again, it's around that responsible AI piece. So although I mean, um, companies are trying to innovate and move fast and so on, but at the same time, it's very important to think about the ethics piece is to think about how much risk we are taking. Like if you look to Tesla, it's true that it's completely changing the market in automotive, but at the same time, the high risk that we're taking by Tesla in a number of I would say instances actually created accident, and created failures because of the lack of enough testing of their new prototypes and so on. So that's something that the society will continue dealing with, and and we have always had to deal with that in computing discipline in general. Like things continue to evolve. As I said, quantum computing will be the next biggest innovation that also will continue to change society, because the main challenge with AI today is also the resources and the costs that are needed to deploy those systems, and that's something that we have more and more solutions for that. So to answer the question, probably not in the near future, but we have to be ready for the time where AI will surpass, I would say, the human intelligence, and there are a lot of challenges there to be handling. And that's why when we are trying to train our students and also looking to the future of AI, that responsible AI piece will continue to be important, and not just focusing on the innovation piece.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective that this is the world of computing has always been these incredible innovations that seem really scary and all-encompassing, and then there's kind of a normalizing time when we realize how it actually fits into the world. Um, Michelle asked for you to talk a bit about the privacy aspects of the generic, widely available AI solutions that we have at our disposal. So things like the risks involved if you include personal or company information. What advice do you have for people to understand how to best use these tools in their work if they don't have systems from their company in place, but to make sure that they're protecting their own privacy and the privacy of the places they work?
Yeah, this is absolutely a great question, and it's an area of research. I personally work on this research area. It's more around looking to consent, because the main problem when we talk about deploying AI is the consent piece, because a lot of systems that are deployed today, they basically lack the right mechanisms to get the consent of the user of what you are signing up actually to in terms of data availability, in terms of sharing, I mean the outcomes of the projects where you get help from those AI tools. So the concept of consent, it's still, I would say, in its infancy in terms of how we can develop systems that basically really take in a rigorous way the consent of the user and what you are signing up for. And this is from both user perspective, but also tools builder perspective, because at the same time, we as users, we always look to this consent, we just accept them without even reading, I mean, what is there. And then we can get surprised later. And I can tell you, I have seen recently an experience where some high school teachers, they used some AI tools for their exams, and they didn't actually pay attention in the consent that basically those exams will be publicly available. So they try to use these tools basically to generate the answers to the tests. So instead of writing them and taking time and so on, but they didn't actually know that this is actually make all this tests exposed to the public. And that's again one example among many. I just try to take some trivial example, but it's much more beyond that. Even if you look to 14,500 companies, Samsung, for example, at the very beginning of the use of ChatGPT, for example, they allow their engineers to use ChatGPT to generate code. And what happened? They had to deal with code leakage of actually their system, and it was basically exposed to their competitors and so on. So the consent piece will continue to be an area of research, especially with the evolution even of AR VR simulation. Even when you're talking to a virtual bot and so on. So what consent you can have with this bot and beyond. So it continue to evolve, and hopefully we'll have a better mechanisms to enforce the rules that can respect those consent when you are using AI tools in general.
Great. Do you have, when you think about the AI tools or solutions that are available, are there any that you recommend for more secure experimentation or practice?
Yeah, I would say most of the tools that are providing the right level of security, you have to pay for that. So because it's kind of a trade-off, because most of companies, the way how they look on it when they try to go to the market, it's either to use you and your data basically as a way to improve their tools so you can get access for free, or you have to pay, and then they will basically protect your data. So unfortunately, most of the tools that you see today that are available in the market, if they are in general provided for free, you need to look very carefully to the consent, because the vast majority of them, they're giving you free access, but the cost from your side that you are paying is your privacy. So please be very careful whenever you use all these tools. The vast majority of them actually require subscription in order to protect the privacy piece. So.
Yeah, great to note. We have a question from Nico who said that you mentioned data handling as one of the jobs at risk to automation. But since data is so important for AI, and because there are still so many, probably questions and concerns about AI and its validity, that feels a bit confusing. Can you explain the risk in more detail for the loss of those data handling jobs?
Yeah, this is actually a great question. So, hiring, I would say, data engineers was always a struggle for many companies. And the reason for that, it's because dealing with data sanitization and data sampling and also, I mean, cleaning data, it's kind of a little bit, I would say, a boring job, especially when it comes at scale. Like you are sitting there trying to clean the data, trying to change the format, trying to do some data sampling. It was challenging to hire high quality data engineers because they see this job as kind of really repetitive task and it's boring. And after a period of time, they may change to probably other positions or jobs. So that was the reason why many companies they're trying today to basically try to automate the data sanitization piece in terms of making data anonymous, for example. So there are a lot of routines today that can do that, and also the maturity of this field is becoming pretty high today, especially with the recent progress in cybersecurity research. For example, when it comes to medical records and so on, there are a lot of efficient tools based on differential security and so on, prototype that can handle that piece very well. But at the same time, I do agree with your comment that still you have that human judgment there that is very important and validation. So I would say it's not completely replacing that job, but of course, since you are able to automate a portion of that job, you need to hire less people because they'd be spending more time on validating the data rather than doing the data cleaning by themselves. So those jobs are not completely disappearing, but the hiring is going less and less in that area.
How do you see degree programs like cybersecurity evolving to make sure that those students are still able to find jobs? If a lot of those entry level jobs may begin to disappear, how can Grand Valley make sure that the students who are interested in those careers can be best prepared for what the world will look like when they graduate?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said from the beginning, that the computing field was always evolving. And what we're experiencing today, that's why we had this new initiative around creating this new programs on computing plus X, because what we have seen in the market today there is a need to have people who are expert in AI or cybersecurity or data science, and at the same time they have the domain knowledge expertise, whether in business or in health. And so, being able to graduate talent who have enough deep expertise on some areas of computing or cybersecurity plus another area is actually one of our main focus because this is how we see part of the future of work as well. There'll be more demand for these skills because in the past when companies are hiring software engineers, they hire them many to do coding and so on. But today they require more critical thinking skills. They require more skills in software testing because I mean a lot of basic code can be generated, but you need to still have the humans who are actually able to test that code and deploy it. And since you are saving time for them in terms of coding, they have the skills as well to focus on management or finance and so on. So a good example for that, let's look how business analysts works even a few years ago. Like in the past, they will submit a ticket to IT to write a routine on how to do, for example, some data sampling and so on. Then the IT person will go back to them with a specific routine to execute. But today, as part of the job of business analysts, actually, they have to do this by themselves. They don't need to send a ticket to IT to do that. So the same thing is happening for cybersecurity job, AI jobs, or software engineering jobs and so on. So they are asked actually to do tasks that are not directly related to programming, but they are still important because their domain expertise.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We have actually now three people who have asked, how can we get involved with the GVSU Trustworthy AI Consortium? What are the next steps for that
Absolutely.
program?
Absolutely. So actually, we were supposed to announce this today publicly as a school. So actually, we had the kickoff event scheduled today, but because of the weather, we are postponing it. But we just got the award, and we are so excited about this. And we will follow up as part of the follow up of this webinar. So we will make sure to share with you the contact information of the director of this consortium, Dr. Samah Mansour. She's a cybersecurity expert with also AI expertise, and we look forward, I mean, to see you whether you want to take a training around trustworthy AI that will be offered by the center. And again, as I said, that's include 20 plus partners who will be influencing what training we'll be offering, but also we will have a number of projects where industry partners can give some ideas of projects that they want the consortium to work on them, and the outcome could be either open source that can be used by company because this is federally funded. So basically we can provide the outcome as open source. So it's an opportunity not just to work with students but also faculty expert. And also I'm very delighted to share that we hired very strong cybersecurity faculty researchers to join the College of Computing for next fall. And the same thing, we hired very strong cybersecurity and AI researcher during this fall. So we would be happy to connect you to them as well. But I think the best starting point was to attend the kickoff event of the consortium. So we will make sure that anyone who attended the webinar today will have actually an invitation to join. So
Yeah. Okay. So you're telling us it's breaking news here today. We are the
yeah.
first to hear. That's so exciting. Woo! All right, everyone, call your local news stations and let them know. So let's see if we've got any more. Jennifer wants to know, again, more information about the Chief AI Officer program.
Absolutely, yeah. As part of the follow-up, we will share a number of resources, including the Chief AI Officer program. And the Chief AI Officer program, it's a small program. Like it's between, I would say the average is 10 executives, senior managers level, and so on, because we see more interest from companies to create these positions of Chief AI Officer. Right now in West Michigan, there are only two positions of Chief AI Officer, and my discussion with many companies here in the area that they see more needs for that, but they need to hire the qualified people for that. So that's absolutely something we'll follow up after this. And please, I mean, reach out if you are interested. You can complete the interest form, and we can have you part of our executives cohort. So.
Perfect. And with our time, I think I'll finish up with one question that I think is kind of fun. Someone pre-submitted a question. I have a 9-year-old granddaughter in the 4th grade. If you had a crystal ball, what would you recommend, or what do you think when you think about higher education in the future? What will she be majoring in when she enters college in 2034, which actually isn't that far away?
Yeah, absolutely. And as we said, since the technology is changing a lot, it's very hard to answer this question. But my advice is there is this opportunity around the computing plus X. So I think the way how the market is changing and higher ed is changing, that interdisciplinary piece is becoming more and more important. It's not enough moving forward to just be specialist in one area, like let's say computer science or in business. You need to be able to pair that with another set of skills even, I mean, just to give an example, one area that I think it will be more and more important more in the future that people didn't think about it probably in the past is, for example, combining cybersecurity with modern languages. So this is one of the degrees that we'll be offering starting from this upcoming fall, because we don't look to cybersecurity just from the technical piece, but understanding the culture and understanding the language and like for company that's very important and for our nation is very important because to be able to be a cybersecurity expert or engineers you need to also understand the culture outside the country, whether you do cybersecurity, for example, plus Chinese, or you do cybersecurity plus whatever other foreign language that you learn, because you can learn the culture and you can think even about a tool like you try to reduce the false positive of identifying harms when people are exchanging messages. And if you don't understand the culture in that specific country, the false positive can be high when you are designing this type of tool. So that's why combining, for example, modern language with cybersecurity will make you more competitive in the market, and also with the higher and higher level of automation that we see today, having that combination of skills will be important. So that's kind of my advice is more looking for combination of skills rather than thinking more and more just being specialized in one area.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. As a liberal arts institution, we're, all about how do we take a holistic view of everything that we're doing. So thank you again so much, Dr. Casentini, for being with us today, for your time and expertise. And thanks to everyone who joined us. Keep an eye out. We'll be sending a follow-up email with a recording of today's webinar, as well as a whole list of all of those resources for what's going on at the College of Computing, as well as some upcoming events with our alumni relations team. So have a great week, everyone, and stay warm.
Thank you all.